Hey guys, welcome back. In the wake of Halo getting its first major update in God knows how long, I thought it was the best time to revisit something that we are all dying for. Halo Infinite Campaign DLC. Fellas, it saddens me to say that so far, any official information, teasers, or hell, even leaks about campaign DLC seem to have eluded us. Given that we've heard rumours courtesy of Sean W that a new Halo game or something Halo related is releasing in 2025, and also
That's so far
we
off.
haven't heard a single leak or even a rumour, anything like that whatsoever about Infinite Campaign DLC, when Infinite is a leakier ship than a Lilo that somebody's magged to P90 into. Go watch my latest branch out video. It's my best one yet. I'm starting to get a little bit concerned that there's no campaign DLC on the way. Just about every single feature for the next year or so of Infinite has been leaked, and for a while now, by either data miners or actual leakers, and not a single word has been even uttered about campaign DLC, or hell, not a word has been said about anything even loosely campaign related. I also think campaign DLC is the kind of thing that would have been greenlit around the launch of the game and possibly even outsourced as well, so the fact that we've not even had a single slight small tease about it yet is quite telling to me. There are rumors circulating right now of an Xbox event that Microsoft are going to be hosting in like early 2023, so maybe something gets announced there, but I highly doubt it. And also, something interesting that Halo Hub spotted is that Microsoft's trademark of Halo the Endless that we saw last year has actually recently been opposed by a dev studio called Amplitude Studios in France, because they have a game called Dungeon of the Endless, and Microsoft are yet to refute this opposition. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and if that has any relevancy to any of this. That trademark is kind of just hanging in the balance still because, like I said, we've not heard a single thing about any campaign DLC. But despite all of this, I am still absolutely convinced that campaign DLC for Halo Infinite is something that should 100% happen. Real quick, before we dive into the meat and potatoes of this video, if I happen to look like a zombie or sound like a zombie in this video, I'm currently fighting the flu and also a severe case of sleep deprivation, so Merry Christmas! Halo is one of the few long-term franchises still standing where a traditional campaign experience is still as important and beloved as multiplayer. That right there is a hyper-unique trait of Halo as an IP that should be lent into, but
That is pretty true.
It kind of feels like modern
Like
Halo...
from someone who's been playing Halo 20 years, and next month they're going to be replaying through the Halo games again. Because every single year I replay through all the Halo games. Halo is in a rare state for FPS games where the campaign is massively important. Like you have to have a good Halo campaign, or you might as well throw the game away. Like in other games like Battlefield and Call of Duty can have bad campaigns and no one gives a shit. People buy those games for multiplayer. Halo is bought for both multiplayer and for its campaign equally. And some people they prefer the campaign or multiplayer. So Halo, you definitely have to have a good campaign. And if this campaign is really good, but there's also like a emptiness towards the end in terms of at least like the door open for DLC. So if there's not any DLC for the game, then it's like, all right, well, this ending just seems a little weird.
Does the opposite of that and almost tries to deviate from it, focusing mostly on multiplayer. The amount of people who still play Halo for the campaign and the campaign alone is massive. The proof? Every Halo game is marketed with campaign materials, trailers, promotional pieces, live action. Hell, the initial reveal of a Halo is almost always campaign related. And also, whenever Halo as a brand is represented in a collaboration in another game or IP, it's always campaign assets that get moved over. It's always Master Chief or Brutes or something like that. It's very rarely anything from multiplayer. Campaign still has so much.
There's so many ads today.
If you
Yo, Google just freaking got a deal with the NFL for Sunday Ticket, and they're trying to get the money back real quick. It's like there's been so many fucking ads.
Doubting how many people are still into Halo because of the campaign.
Usually like two ads a video for YouTube. You get a shit ton of ads.
343, Xbox, and Microsoft have to make for stuff like this, right? And that with those decisions in mind, they still choose to prioritize campaign over multiplayer. And yet, despite that, the only consistent content being made for this audience, and I say consistent rather lightly, are books. And come on, let's be perfectly real here, right? I love Halo books.
Who's this guy?
But
His name's
at the end of the
hiddenxperia.
day,
Yeah.
what percentage
He's a Halo
of the
content creator.
overall campaign audience do you think, or hell, even general Halo audience, do you think are buying and engaging with Halo novels? 10%? 5%? Honestly, I think both of those are incredibly generous estimates. It's great that Halo's story has managed to stretch its wings beyond the games, but I feel like 343 have a major over-reliance on transmedia and kind of neglect what Halo is first and foremost, a game. Supplemental books are great, but when the last 7 years of a video game franchise have had only 3 major
What's this hot takes? I don't even have any hot takes, just talking about that Halo needs more content.
Comics,
Which has been a general thought for like the last couple of years.
And what's worse is that all 3 of those video game stories feel almost entirely disconnected from one another. There's no cohesion with them, but we'll touch on that later on.
Well, I think the disconnection between Halo 5 and Infinite is more so because of the backlash. People hated Halo 5's campaign so much that they were basically like ignored it exists and retcon some stuff. So I wouldn't say that it's disconnected because of anything other than trying to make the fans happy by ignoring that most of Halo 5 even happened. Halo 4 and 5 are pretty connected enough. Not as connected to say like 2 and 3. 2 and 3, like literally the ending of 2 is the beginning of 3. That's how connected those two games are. I think like the difference between 5 and 6 is just fans hated 5. Not all fans actually like 5. Fans hate 5, and the company was just too afraid to continue the story of 5, so they kind of had like this retcon, not retcon campaign for the 6th game, which is Infinite.
Masses, and this broader audience that 343 are so obsessed with chasing just feels like an afterthought nowadays. It feels like something that they have to do out of necessity rather than their primary focus as the shepherds of the franchise that they inherited. I'm gonna say it again, in the last 7 years of Halo, we've only had 3 stories in the main narrative. Technically 2 if you want to count Halo Wars 2 as a spin-off, which it was. And in the same amount of time, 7 years, Bungie released an entire trilogy.
Okay, the issue with that comparison, there's actually I have issue with his comparison.
2 if you want to count Halo Wars.
Let's pause at that picture.
And in the same amount of time, 7 years, Bungie.
This isn't a good comparison. The reason is, sure, Bungie released 3 Halo games in 7 years, but also Bungie didn't want to release 3 Halo games in 7 years. They didn't want to do that. They just had to. Halo 1 was meant to be. There's a documentary about this. Halo 1 was meant to be the only Halo game. No, there wasn't supposed to be any Halo sequels. But Xbox wanted a Halo 2, and Microsoft gave them enough time, but Bungie, they were strapped for time, and they were strapped for like a lot of things. There's a documentary about Halo 2 and how Halo 2 was in development hell, and like people were getting divorced, people were getting depressed, like their lives was going to shit trying to make Halo 2. A lot of people were quitting because of like it was causing family issues. A lot of people were just done with Halo because of just how much hard work needed to be put on Halo 2. It was a rushed game. It was buggy as hell. Halo 2, even though it's considered one of the greatest games of all time, the backstory to the development for it was not very good. And they were just so ready to be done with Halo 2, even to the point where they were hoping that there wouldn't be a Halo 3. Like they left it on a cliffhanger when it comes to the ending, because chances are there was going to be 3, but they didn't want to do any more Halo games. After the first Halo, they rushed and forced themselves to do Halo 2, and then like Halo 3, they had more time, and they was able to like have basically what Halo 2 could have been had they had the same amount of time as Halo 3. So it's example of they had 7 years made 3 games versus they had 7 years making 2 games. It's not really comparable, and also not a good comparison just via how much hell went through for Halo 2. Halo 2 was huge. Halo 2 is considered one of the greatest games of all time. It's just period. Like, doesn't matter what genre, it's considered one of the greatest games of all time. It's considered also as being like the godfather of modern online gaming. Like modern online gaming, they started out with Xbox Live and Halo 2. Like there was online gaming before Halo 2, but it didn't become mainstream until Xbox Live and Halo 2. But Halo 2 is like the cornerstone for Halo. There's a video called a Halo retrospective that goes into details about like the impact and importance of Halo 2 on the game industry. It's a massive deal. But at the same time, behind the scenes, making the game was hell.
an entire trilogy. Going back to that percentage estimate that I had earlier of how many Halo story fans actually engage with the books, even if we are insanely generous, right, and say 10% of Halo's story audience also read the books.
I read the
that
books.
Still means that 90% of what is arguably Halo's biggest audience per 343 and Xbox aren't being catered to right now. There are millions upon millions of players right there that could be getting hooked into the live service ecosystem and monetized that are instead being left behind. People
That's true.
me, for example,
You want to know how true that statement is? I don't even have Infinite installed right now. Like, I can show my installs right now. I don't even have Halo Infinite installed because I'm not going to be playing the campaign until I'm done with Halo 5. So like I said, next month we're going to replay through all Halo games because every single year since Halo first came out, I replay through the Halo games. And when this new game comes out, I add it to the rotation. I'll install Halo Infinite to replay the campaign next year, like after I do 1 through 5. But I don't have it installed right now. I do have Halo 1 through 5 installed. I have my Chief Collection installed. I don't have Infinite installed because, well, I don't really care. The multiplayer sucks, so I don't really want to play the multiplayer. So there's no campaign things to do right now. So I'm one of them percent who's kind of just sitting around.
Multiplayer is still miles.
But these guys are beats in the game. I don't know. Probably not. It might be pretty good. I don't know. Most content creators tend to suck at the games if they cover.
Microtransactions that are incredibly intrusive and
that's kind of like a hot take right there. He's probably pretty decent at Halo, but a lot of content creators are pretty bad against the cover.
That continues the main story for, I don't know, 20, 30, hell, even $40, I will hand mail my entire family's credit cards with a first-class stamp on 2343 Industries. And I guarantee that I am not the only person that feels that way. I know for a fact there are so many
people getting jacked.
who are willing to
He's been hitting the gym lately.
Expansions and DLCs
getting jacked.
That don't necessitate a brand new game.
See them buy sales in the corner.
Yo, have you tried Tubi?
I think you like it.
It's my go-to for free movies and TV.
In the era of live service fascination, the fact that Halo Infinite's live service only applies to multiplayer is a colossal.
Such a hideous skin.
Yeah, there's the season-to-season narrative around the academy and stuff like that, but come on, the only reason that story exists is to provide an absolute minimal amount of context to just all the new things you can buy in the store or the battle pass. You cannot tell me that this narrative is designed to be a compelling
Won't surprise me. Good looking dude, nice eyes, and shape.
Tell me that. It only exists for monetization.
The content creator, so he probably has a good, pocket.
In every other live service
Wouldn't surprise me.
Right now, they exist to push microtransactions and cosmetics. That's really the only reason they're there. This should not be the only live service content that appeals to story fans. With how crucial of a Halo feature campaign is, and also the fact that Halo Infinite is the first fully open world Halo game, I see absolutely no reason why the live service shouldn't also be applying to the campaign world.
Agreed.
It still has so many unused areas, mechanics, untouched on story beats, concepts that could be brought to life, different areas of the universe that could be brought into it, etc, etc. Okay, just before we take a quick break, I want to ask you guys a question, right? And I want you to answer genuinely in the comments, yes or no. Would you be interested in buying Halo Infinite campaign DLC
The answer there
that
is yes.
continues the main story? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments. Alrighty, so on the topic of Halo campaign and lore, let's smoothly segue into today's sponsor, the one, the only, Audible. It's Christmas, which means it's time to get comfy in front of the fire and vibe out to some
Noel's online.
With Audible, your selection is infinite. Every single Halo audiobook is on Audible. As you can see from this incredibly long scroll through their library, you can pick from literally anything from the Forerunner trilogy to Contact Harvest, The Flood to Shadows of Reach, and so on. And as an Audible member, you get 1 credit every month to redeem for any audiobook in their collection to keep forever.
What's PS1 competitor for Halo? There isn't one. They had one, but they kind of just killed it off. It was Killstorm? I think what it's called? It's Kill something. Killstorm is probably like the closest thing to competing for competing against Halo for Sony, but they came from it. Killzone, not Killstone. Killzone.
Or text hiddenxperia to 500-500. That's audible.com.
Is Halo story that deep? There's a number of books, comics. There's Netflix movies. There's animated movies. There's miniseries.
to the DLC talk.
Even like the miniseries have like real actors too. Like it's not like they have like these low budget freaking D-list celebrities. Like a lot of the Halo content has like big name celebrities. Like Halo Nightfall, the star Halo Nightfall was Michael Coulter. Michael Coulter played Luke Cage. So that's how much money Microsoft has, and that's how much they care for the identity of Halo. Even though people would say, well, they can't care that much because the Halo TV show is bad. It's not. It's just not meant for Halo fans. The Halo TV show is meant for people who don't play video games and try to make money off those people. That's why the Halo TV show exists. The Halo TV show is meant to get people who don't play video games to be interested in Halo. But generally, very, very deep story. Insanely deep. I have some books back there. I forgot how many comics there are, but there's a lot.
Problem with course correction. Almost every 343 game has been a major course correction from the last in some capacity, and that extends to the campaign and story as well. The Didact was shelved after Halo 4. Osiris, Blue Team, the Infinity Crew, and the Arbiter were dropped after Halo 5. The Spirit of Fire crew are left in limbo after Halo Wars 2 because Halo Wars 3 was cancelled. And all of these dropped game stories have one thing in common. They were all either continued and or in some cases resolved in books, and that should never happen in my opinion. Halo's
I
books
agree.
are at their absolute strongest.
As good as the
when they
Halo books are,
facilitated-
if a game has a story, the story should continue within the games because most people who experience that story played the games. Like imagine the Star Wars series. There are Star Wars books. Like just imagine the Star Wars movies. Let's say you have episode 1 through 3, but 4, 5, and 6 are books. You'd be like, yeah, what the fuck? Like that people wouldn't be like, oh, okay, I have to just go read these books and finish the story of Star Wars. You'd be thrown the fuck off and mad. Is there a Thanos villain in Halo? You can kind of consider the Didact close to that. Generally, Halo doesn't really have like an overpowered god-like individual who can just whoop everyone's ass, and then you need like a collection of Spartans to fight it. Like the Didact is close you can get to that, and you know, just Chief deals with that. It's not like really like a team up enemy in Halo. They could, because you know there's a number of Spartans. It's not like just one Spartan.
Enhance existing stories, when they fill in gaps in existing stories and expand the universe, not when they take existing stories from the games and resolve them. That's not to say that there can't be crossover between the games and the books. There absolutely can be, and there absolutely should be. But the issue is, if a story is started in one medium, it should be
what I just said.
and resolved in that medium. It shouldn't require transferring over to a completely different medium to experience the middle and end of it.
Another comparison to that would be Final Fantasy. Now, I personally enjoy Kingsglaive and Final Fantasy 15, but Final Fantasy 15 has a story where, in order for like a good chunk of that story to make sense to you, you have to watch Kingsglaive, which is on YouTube, not YouTube, it's on Hulu. So you as a gamer who's just playing the game, you probably don't even have a Hulu subscription, you're just playing the game, you're like, these cutscenes don't make sense. What am I even looking at? And it's like, oh, you gotta go watch Kingsglaive, which is a movie, Final Fantasy 15, in order to understand most of these cutscenes and what's going on right here. It's like, so I have to leave the game I'm playing and go watch a movie and then come right back. So it's like, you don't really want to have something where there's another form of media that you have to take in order to enjoy the one form of media that you're enjoying. Imagine watching a movie, and let's say you're watching Avengers Infinity War. You're watching Infinity War, you're enjoying it, and then Endgame's a video game. You're like, wait, what? I don't even play video games. So you think of all the people who saw Infinity War who might not even be gamers. Like, in order for you to understand there's a story, I gotta go play a game called Endgame. Doesn't make any sense.
Of Halo 5 story that Halo Infinite addressed, I think it did so.
Does it have overpowered enemies? Halo does have overpowered enemies. They just don't have like a one person who just wrecks everything. Halo has a flood, which are a galactic threat. The rings of Halo can destroy an entire freaking galaxy. There's enemies who, as a collective, can fuck things up instead of just one person doing something.
Are going to be reading or experiencing. For me personally, it doesn't matter how bad a video game story is or how good a book is. I just don't think that video game stories should be resolved in a book, especially when your franchise is a video game series first and foremost. There are so many better things that Halo's books can and should be used for than that. Please 343, do not let Halo Infinite's story be another entry in the long list of Halo game stories that gets dropped and then resolved in a book.
It'd be a huge fail.
Yo,
I feel like that kind of continues the negative connotation towards 343 that they're not doing a good job of Halo's story. Like, the games are good, but just the continuation of them just aren't really going well.
Campaign DLC for Halo Infinite that expands the game
You play
story,
new game, there's usually new content modes. Usually there's like just the, when it comes to like a new video game, there's the initial content. You don't really get like newer content from the initial content until months later. Like when World of Warcraft launched, it didn't have Shadowlands, it didn't have Wrath of the Lich King, it was just World of Warcraft. And what it had at the beginning, sure, it was enjoyable. But like its best content was added years later. Like most people who play Warcraft will tell you, Wrath of the Lich King is the best thing. So when it comes to like, say Halo for example, Halo when it comes out has a good campaign. The new content would be adding like new maps to the multiplayer. Shooters usually you add more maps to multiplayer, and that's pretty much it. You know, nowadays people do kind of want to see shooters get like campaign expansions, but usually when it comes to like a FPS game, the campaign's done. The content that gets added is new maps, new guns, and things like that. When it comes to like most shooters, Halo doesn't really do gun updates where they put new guns to the game, but other shooters they do add like new guns. But yeah, a brand new game has its initial content, and then months or a couple of years later, that had like DLC content that adds new content to the game.
Far more suited to expansions and new story experiences than really any Halo that came before. Like I already mentioned, you already have so many unused areas on the map and tons of areas that could be reused in a different way, so you don't have to worry about designing all the geometry and stuff from scratch like you would in a kind of traditional mission-based linear campaign like what came before. Infinite's story is also incredibly well suited for DLC as well. I mean, hell, it literally feels like it was designed to be the first chapter in a series of stories and expansions rather than a full, complete experience in and of itself. The massive implications of the ending, and even more so the legendary ending, feel purpose-built to be followed up on with an expansion. Please don't leave us hanging for like another 3 to 6 years to see a continuation of this. You have fans excited and hyped to see where the story's going to go.
Including graphics. You don't really have graphic updates for a game that's already out. Usually the new game has new graphics and new mechanics.
Excited and hyped to see where it's going to go. Don't leave us hanging.
The only time there's like a graphic update for video games, there's like an engine update.
As its universe expands, is
like going from Unreal 4 to Unreal 5.
Elements of its fiction to fit into one story without that story getting messy. And so, these elements just remain.
But usually new mechanics and new graphics system that you hope like a brand new game.
But
not for something that's already existing.
Allowing for more frequent entries into the main story, you open up room for different and more obscure elements of the fiction to be brought to the forefront. And I think Halo Infinite's campaign is a great example of how cool this stuff can be. I mean, things like Zeta Halo, the Silent Shadow, those things had always been elements of the lore that has stayed far away from the main narrative. But dude, how fucking cool was it when Halo Infinite finally brought those obscure but fan-beloved elements of the universe into the limelight and made them a core part of the main story? Now, imagine that happening, but on a semi-frequent basis with all the different weird and obscure corners of the Halo universe. That right there.
Yeah, a lot of book and comic stuff could be like micro DLC for the Halo universe. You already have the source material, so it's not like really hard for you to develop a story to develop the gameplay for it.
Because I think there's unfortunately a very valid and very sad reason why we haven't heard, seen, or sensed in our fingertips any campaign DLC yet. Truth be told, campaign DLC just doesn't really have that much bang for its buck. Yeah, 343 could spend like 8 to 9 figures hiring an entire campaign team of writers, engineers, artists, designers, producers, directors, and actors, and then spend a year or two designing a $40 expansion, or they could spend 1% of that sum and just push out some low-effort microtransaction that took 1/50th of the time to make, and charge half as much as the campaign DLC for it, hundreds of times a year. There's a reason we're seeing so many games shedding traditional campaigns nowadays. I mean, both long-running franchises like Battlefield and Titanfall, and then new games like Fortnite, technically, kinda, that are instead adopting this live service narrative that's designed first and foremost to sell the newest skins. The sad truth is that the risk-return on designing a fully fledged campaign experience and then continuing it with large, expensive expansions just isn't really there compared to making some fake-feeding live service game with monetization at the very core of its design, and then just trickling in tiny little bits of a narrative to continue that monetization. That said, just a devil's advocate, hope isn't lost just yet. Destiny is actually a shining example of campaign DLCs still being very, very successful. I mean, they pump out like at least...
Oh, Destiny's campaigns are successful because it's Destiny. Destiny players don't play anything that's put out by Bungie. So the success isn't necessarily because like it's actually good gameplay or a good story, but more so because it's more content.
I mean, no long-running franchise that caters to both single-player and multiplayer audiences still puts as much of an emphasis on campaign and single-player as Halo does.
Because I play the person, yeah. I'm not somebody who freaking like is a graphic snob, so it's like, oh my god, I can't freaking enjoy this game because it doesn't have good graphics. Some games age very, very well when it comes to graphics, and Halo is a very good-looking game.
I think Infinite is the game to do it, or theoretically, it should be the game to do it.
Like I said, I replay through Halo every single year. That's 20 years replaying the game. I haven't had an issue yet when it comes to looking at the visuals of Halo, because like Halo 1, 2, 3 in Reach.
Right now, we're all feeling a little bit lost and forgotten. So, as I asked earlier, would you buy campaign DLC for Halo Infinite? Give me a yes, give me a no, and give me the why down below in the comments. And with that said, we're going to round this one out here. I want to give a massive thank you to all of my amazing...
I'd buy Halo campaign DLC. I think for me, the big reason why I buy Halo campaign DLC is because it's Halo. Or the exact same reason why I said Destiny succeeds is why I would buy a Halo campaign, because it's Halo. Some people buy video games because it's the game that they love. They don't really care if it's good, if it's bad. They don't really care about anything other than it's the game that I care about. I'll buy anything it put out. That's just a factual thing. Destiny, he mentioned Destiny. Destiny story is still man and kind of all over the place, and Destiny players, including myself, are thirsting for more than what Bungie puts out for it. But it succeeds because it's Destiny. People who play Destiny, you have sunk cost fallacy. You're already sunken in. You're going to go ahead and keep buying more and more content, no matter what comes out. So yeah, I'd pay money for a freaking Halo campaign DLC because it's Halo. The more Halo I can get, the better. That's all I care about. Give me more Halo. That's what I want. More and more Halo. Doesn't matter how I get it, just more of it. I'm a glutton for Halo. How come? Because I love Halo. Halo has a great story. There's nothing about Halo's story that I just don't love. Like, I love it. Halo could be... Like, here's the best example I can give. I got a potty, so I have to get a example. I'm gonna go potty. Halo, if it was a movie, will be an Oscar quality movie. This story is just that good from the beginning to the end, from Halo 1 down to the end of Halo Infinite, which is like the sixth main game. But there's also Halo ODST, there's also Halo Reach, there's also Halo Wars 2, Spartan Assault. There's that number of other like games that aren't part of like the main, the main line. But like from Reach, if you want to include that down to Infinite, it's just an amazing story that's Oscar quality with great acting, great cutscenes, great emotional invoking thought process. Then the gameplay is some of the best FPS gameplay in video games. Typical alien invasion, like stormtroopers with Richards. Yeah. I mean, the general basis, sure, not like the actual like core story elements of the game or just the core story. It's way more unique than that. Like, it's not like you like when it comes to Halo, for example, they don't even go to Earth until in terms of like the chronological order of the story until like I guess you could say the third game. Like Halo Reach, they're on a different planet. Halo 1, they're on a ring. Halo 2, they go to Earth. It's not like just one alien group. It's a covenant of multiple alien factions together. There's way more than like something like Stormtroopers. Even though Stormtroopers actually did play an influence in Halo's story in terms of like the inspiration. It was one of many things that played inspiration in it. Halo's way more deeper than just basic alien invasion. But back to like the whole thought process of like, why do I have such investment in Halo? I'm 30 years old. I've been playing Halo for 20 years. Since the day it came out, I've been playing Halo every single year my entire life. So why am I so invested in playing Halo? So no matter what they put out, I'll play it, I'll buy it. I've been playing it for 20 years. When you're that invested in something, you stay invested. Game has a huge following for a long time. Yeah. Halo is, like I said, it's an iconic video game series. Halo is in the same category. Halo's in the Video Game Hall of Fame. It's in the same category as Mario and Sonic and games like that. Master Chief's a gaming icon. Like, there's very few characters in the video game that transcends media. Master Chief is just like Mario and just like Sonic, making new plastic like all over the place.